So my name's Ellie Ellis, and I suffer bipolar 1, and it's a tough illness. But it seems as though my family, since my mom died, can just duck out, like, don't want to deal with illness. And so, because I know what I know through the number of years that I've dealt with this, that a family is very necessary when someone has a mental health issue. They know the person, and they need to get the person help if the person is not capable of doing that themselves. If a person's laying on the sidewalk with a heart attack, what do? Well, you get them help. It's no different. Although I think it can get confusing because the thing is with a mental health issue, and say your chemistry in your brain, like when you're drunk, you talk different, you act different, you drive cars different. I mean, there's definitely, you can see a chemical response there, or drugs, marijuana, LSD. So why would it be any different when someone suffers, say, schizophrenia or bipolar? It's just chemistry. I do think we need conclusive studies, and we need to represent this in public schools through teachers and families and children, in brain health, because so many people, I've seen violence, I've seen inappropriate behaviors. I've seen mentally ill people acting really strange, and and I think too, because it's a brain illness, it's one of the scariest things that a person can have, because where are you without your brain? It is scary. But on the upside, there's a lot of really creative, fun, nice people that also. Let's look at Beethoven. He was something. Nobody really liked him that much because, well, number one, he was a raging alcoholic, and he was beaten and abused by his father, who also had bipolar. And Edgar Allan Poe. Somehow these two men with bipolar or depressive disorders were able to channel their genius into their work for people to enjoy. But they weren't necessarily likable people. And I get that. Trust me, I get that, because sometimes if I'm not doing well, I can be very disagreeable and sometimes even somewhat aggressive with that. But when you look at the person and you understand it, and you're like, oh, their chemicals are not well. And sometimes there's nothing you can do. I mean, if they're not a danger to self or others, but their behaviors are not appropriate, sometimes you just have to walk away. And so it's been hard on my kids sometimes. And then on top of it, my ex-husband was an alcoholic, so that made my stress levels very high, especially after the divorce, and his monetary system was askew. Because of his alcoholism, he had no finances, so that was stressful. But the thing that I think I want to implore to people to understand is that you don't get off the hook. And it's your job, if you don't know, it's your job for your family member to reach out to NAMI, to reach out to your schools and say, hey, we want some information, because 1 in 5 people at some time in their life suffers mental health issues, whether it's depression or lifelong bipolar, schizophrenia. And I can't even begin to tell you the amount of people that have to be on medication, or the people that self-medicate with drugs and alcohol and totally ruin their lives. Because, we've got a situation out in California now. But I think this message is mainly for my families, that you're not off the hook. And I think maybe some of them suffer some problems too that maybe make it less favorable for them to be able to be supportive. And sometimes people try to hide that, and they get good at it, They get good at hiding their mental, psychological issues. And so I understand that too. But I do try to reach out and I say, hey, let's talk. Let's talk. And I am in actually full remission. I went to a different doctor. He put me on different medications. And for the first time in about 15 years, I've been able to work a job consistently for over 2 years and not get fired, not just quit, have relationships. And so I guess my message is that there's hope. I mean, but you have to get the right doctor and you also have to get the right medication. I don't know for sure, but I think everybody's treatable with these illnesses now. And they're discovering more and more that it may just eventually be like a headache. And it may be so easy to find the right medications that it's not that big a deal. We're not there yet. But I think if we keep going with the research and treating our patients with dignity and not calling them crazy, and that's not nice. You know, back in the old days, intellectually disabled people were called something that wasn't favorable to them either. But that's not kind to say that to a person who's suffering an illness, and it is painful. You know, when you're manic and you're flying high and you're basically ruining relationships, kind of, because everybody's like, what is she doing? She's spending all her money. You know, they can't keep up, because I will tell you, you have grandiose delusions. You have so much energy that you don't sleep. For years and years and years, it was so painful not to sleep but more than 2 or 3 hours a night. And the doctor that I was seeing didn't know what to do, you know. And then I went to a new doctor, and he's like, oh, I can fix that. And he did. I was like, holy, goodness gracious. Think of all the money going in the direction of sending people to hospitals and stuff when we actually need better doctors. I went to an Indian doctor, and he had me on totally wrong medication. He put me on an antidepressant for bipolar 1, which then eventually I looked up and I'm like, nobody is on that medication for bipolar 1 because it makes you manic. So he, in essence, was making me sicker because he didn't know his stuff. So he should lose his license and have to go back to India and deal with them over there. But he shouldn't be here in America using our system to make money and not know his job. But it's your taxpayer money, you know, or your insurance money and your insurance premiums if we don't have good doctors. And it's no longer shameful because we know so much, and we know how gifted and talented so many people with different chemicals are, and the gifts that they share with us. Ernest Hemingway, you know, bipolar, and he killed himself. And Kurt Cobain, the list, Lady Gaga, you know, Britney Spears. So many people in the entertainment field, you know, have a little different chemistry. That's what makes them special. So what makes me different and sick at times is also what makes me jive. Like I feel like I get into this like metaphysical groove, and I just know how to make art for some reason. And to me, the connection between the soul and the human and the universe is consistent with who we are as a person. So if you're not happy with yourself as a person, or you want to cover it up, you need to face some truth. You need to find out who you are and not cover it up. Be you. And it's okay to make mistakes. That's what I love about all the therapy I've had, is like, you know, you own it. And that's another thing through AA, is you own it. You, even though it may have been my illness and it wasn't my fault because I was taking my medicine, I still hurt somebody. And that was never my intent, to hurt somebody because I had an illness. And we have the mass shootings and things like that. That's mental problems. And that's why we need it in the schools. We need to educate the kids and the parents and the teachers, and also have art therapy, because sometimes children can't talk about their they may be being sexually abused when they're age, you know, 2nd, 3rd grade, and something's amiss. But until they go into art therapy, the art therapist can kind of pick that out and say, ooh, we need to get a therapist over there. Maybe lock that father up or that grandfather up. They need to know how to look into it. And if they're not specially trained for those areas, they can totally miss it. It can just be a behavioral problem. And they send them to, detention. And in fact, he's being abused or something's wrong. If a child is acting up, something is wrong in their life or the teacher is not making a connection with that child. Children are good. Children are always good. And they're all smart and they all have different gifts. And that's our job as adults. And with the system that we have, we need to provide the care they need psychologically. And we just have to. It's our job as teachers. It's our job as the principal. It's our job as police officers. It's our job as the governor of Virginia. And it's our job as the president. Maybe we can have a kinder America instead of the one that they're trying to play. I believe in firmness, in diplomacy, firmness, and not let people walk on you, but I also believe in kindness.